I wouldn't exactly say I was bored with the rap game, but by 1989, I wanted to expand my musical horizons. My love for rock didn't start with my band, Body Count. My introduction to rock started when I was living in my aunt's house back in the mid-'70s. My first cousin, Earl, had already graduated from Dorsey High, but he was hanging around thinking he was Jimi Hendrix. He was one of the few rocked-out black guys I'd met. He wore a scarf around his head and only listened to KMET and KLOS in L.A., the two rock stations. For a while when I first came to live with my aunt, I had to share a bedroom with him. I was just a kid in junior high, so Earl controlled the radio in the room, playing non-stop classic rock. I didn't hang with Earl, but just being around him, sharing that bedroom radio, I started to pick out the songs I liked. I had no taste for rock before Cousin Earl. He had his well-worn Jimi Hendrix and Black Sabbath albums, and from listening to the radio I learned about Leon Russell, Mott the Hoople, Blue Oyster Cult, Deep Purple, all the heavy rock bands of that era. If you're saturated with a certain type of music long enough, you'll start to pick out the artists you like. If you worked in an area full of Jamaicans, you're going to listen to reggae so much that eventually you're going to say, you know, I like that song by Peter Tosh. So, right at the age where my musical taste was forming, thanks to Cousin Earl, I was saturated with the bigger, heavier stuff. Edgar Winter, Led Zeppelin, and Black Sabbath were my favorites. It was kind of cool to know about that shit. Not too many black kids my age knew about the great rock guitarists. There was one other black rockhead at Crenshaw High, Ernie Cunningham from South Central. We all called him Ernie C. Ernie was a dedicated guitar player. He was a real different dude. In the midst of the whole gang culture at Crenshaw, everyone wearing the same uniform of pressed khakis, Chuck Taylors, flying blue rags, Ernie C. would walk around with a Fender guitar strapped over his shoulder like he was constantly on his way to a gig. He did this one concert at Crenshaw, right there in the multipurpose room. Crazy. He had flash pots he'd made at home. He was rolling around on the stage playing Peter Frampton songs lick for lick. The audience was all gangbangers standing around watching him. These Crips who didn't know shit about rock music. But they all respected Ernie C. because of his showmanship and his sheer balls. Vic Wilson, also known as Beatmaster V, could play the drums. But he got caught up in the drug game more and more until he and Sean E. Sean caught that case for the 26 pounds in their crib down in Inglewood. When I first got my deal with Sire Records, anybody with any musical aptitude gravitated toward me. Ernie and Vic would constantly say, "Ice, you got an album deal. Yo, let's play." No, this is hip-hop. I don't really need a band. If you go back and check my early recordings, I always had a rock influence in my rap records. On my first album, Rhyme Pays, for the title song I used the hook from Black Sabbath's War Pigs. I let Beatmaster V play live drums over the sample. I get a lot of haters who think I somehow jumped on the rock bandwagon, that my rock and roll band was a marketing gimmick. But if I didn't really love it, why would I make my title song on my first album a rock track? I always liked the hard stuff. Rap to me was a form of rock. When you listen to hip-hop, we never say, we're gonna R&B the mic. We say, we're gonna rock the mic, or we're gonna rock the house. To me, rocking is just aggression. If you go along with everything, if you sing what everyone wants to hear, you're doing what's popular. You're pop. But if you say, fuck that, I don't understand why, I want to go against the grain, then it's rock. Even when I was doing pure hip-hop, I was always laying in guitar licks, just to add to the energy. I didn't invent that sound. Thanks to Rick Rubin, acts like the Beastie Boys, Run DMC, and LL Cool J were all using rock hooks. And I loved the edge and power that some loud electric guitar chords brought to the mix. To me, it made perfect sense. It made the rap harder. By the time I got to my third album, OG, when I go into the studio in L.A., it felt like half the city knew Ice-T's every move. There'd be a gang of folks dropping by my studio sessions night and day. Vic came home, still on parole, and I immediately hooked him up as the drummer in the band. So we're recording OG, and one night I had a whole band sitting in the room. I was working in the Soundcastle studio in Hollywood, and Ernie C and Beatmaster V were pressuring me to let them play on the record. "Why don't we just make a band?" I said. "We'll play gigs around LA just for the hell of it." The rest of that original lineup was Moose Man on bass and D-Rock on rhythm guitar. We didn't do some big audition or citywide search. It was just the dudes I've been tight with for years. Moose went to Crenshaw with us and was a beast on the bass. D-Rock was one of Ernie's students. So now we had enough people for a band to start doing local gigs. This was in 1990. We would play anywhere there were open band nights. We played little bars and pizza joints, not making any money, just testing out the body count concept. Then the cats from Dirty Rotten Imbeciles, one of the earliest hardcore thrash bands, were going out, and they had some spot gigs in Northern California. They asked us if we wanted to go out with them and put ourselves in front of a real audience. So we headed up to Northern Cali, did these gigs with DRI. There were skinheads with tattoos in the audience, and they were booing us, wondering what a bunch of black street dudes were doing gigging at a thrash punk show. 5 minutes into the set, they'd flipped, and they were slam dancing. They were gone. We didn't even know if we would be accepted by rock audiences. We didn't have some big strategic plan. I mean, Body Count was a garage band in every sense of the word. We just wanted to jam together and have fun. I never thought I could get a record deal where I could be the front man in the band. Since I was already signed to Sire for a few more albums, I didn't think we could get a separate deal. But I said, fuck it. Let's figure it out when it happens. We did our first tour and went out with the groups DRI and Exodus. And we did a tour up and down the coast. We were just slamming it. The rock guys were digging us. More important, we had a really good time out there. We were steadily gigging. We developed a tighter set. We realized we needed more songs. Our set was too short. Ernie hooked us up with Perry Farrell from Jane's Addiction. Perry pitched me this idea of doing a cover of the Sly Stone song Nigga Whitey for this video they were doing called Gift. I was going to do it as Ice-T instead of as a character. We were playing our parts. "I'm going to sing it at you, then you sing it at me," Perry told me. "I don't like you, you don't like me." I liked the concept of the remake. Don't call me nigga, Whitey. Don't call me Whitey, nigga. We did the track, and Perry started telling us about this idea he had to start up a traveling festival called Lollapalooza, kind of a Woodstock for heavy metal, alternative punk, and hip-hop acts. It sounded way too crazy to me, but I like shit that sounds way too crazy. Without hesitation, I told Perry, "Look, man, I want to be down. Put Ice-T on the bill." I don't think Perry even knew I had a rock band called Body Count. There wasn't any expectation for that Lollapalooza show. They told me where to show up, when I was playing on the bill. "Ice, you're going to go on third. It's going to be Butthole Surfers, then Rollins Band, then you." "Shit," I said. "I go on after two established artists?" "You're a platinum artist, Ice." They told me I had an hour on the stage. An Ice-T set is normally an hour, but I decided I'd split it right down the middle. Do 30 minutes of Ice-T material, 30 minutes of Body Count. They didn't pay me enough to bring all the guys in the band out, but I figured, fuck it, this is our chance. I ate any profit from the show by bringing all the band and equipment out, twice as many people as normal, on the road. After I did my Ice-T set, I paused and looked out at about 20,000 people. "Now I'm about to prove to you that rock and roll has nothing to do with black and white," I said. "Rock and roll is a state of mind." While I'm saying that, our roadies have transformed the set to the Body Count stage. And then Ernie C and D-Rock came in hard on the guitars. Boom! We hit them with Cop Killer, KKK Bitch, Voodoo, and we killed it. All the hard shit had everybody's jaws dropping open. We play, and Henry Rollins would stand on the side of the stage every night. We just went out there with the fever and nailed it. I didn't have any fear. I looked at Ernie, Vic, Moose, and D-Rock backstage. Every one of us looked like we'd just run a marathon. We were out of breath, all drenched in sweat. But the cats in the band all looked like they had the best time of their lives. "Look," I told them, "we can do this. I can scream just as hard as any of these motherfuckers, and you guys can fucking play." Living Color was also on the bill, but I saw our band as polar opposites. Living Color was the black band, and we were the niggas. Vernon Reid still adopted the rock look, bright colors, tight pants, a rock vibe. We had on khakis and looked like gangbangers. We had a style similar to suicidal tendencies. Mike Muir and those cats took that Venice gangster image and ran with it. We give credit to those guys in Suicidal as being the first gangster-based rock band. With Body Count, I wanted to have a Black Sabbath sound and style, but my lyrics would be based on our lives. Ozzy and Dio would sing about the devil. If you look at our debut album cover, when you open it, there's a guy with a gun pointed at your face. To us, that was the devil. We wanted to change the imagery of metal to reality. Like, what's more scary than that? Some gangster with a gat pointed at you. The cover was supposed to be a super gangbanger, some arch criminal of the street, maybe based on a guy like Tuki, with cop killer tattooed on his chest. That guy on the cover didn't look like he had a friend in the world. He was dangerous, the last motherfucker you'd want to meet on the street. In other words, he was the gatekeeper of hell. That was more reality-based for us than the standard heavy metal artwork of Lucifer with horns and a pitchfork. We wanted the name Body Count to have a couple of meanings. It meant, how many people would die in the pit? How many other bands would we have to take out? How many non-believers could we turn into fans? Between us, we often called the group BC, which was a play on words too. That stood for Bloods and Crips. On our third album, Violent Demise, we even used the hand signs of the Bloods and the Crips, side by side, as the cover art. Of course, anytime you do anything new, people got shit to say. What the fuck is Ice doing? Is he posing? What's he trying to prove with this rock trip? We got way more static from the white rock boys, who didn't necessarily believe that we were serious. And I could understand that. Whenever you're deep with the whole culture, there is a fear of someone coming from outside, doing it just to make fun of it. When Eminem came into the rap game, we wanted to make sure that he really understood and had respect for the art of hip-hop. When Body Count hit the scene, the white rock crowd didn't know if it was just a gimmick, if my band was just studio players, and if we could actually play live. But once people stood in front of us at a show and felt the blast of Body Count, damn straight, that doubt was soon removed. After our first few shows, most of the naysayers were silenced. Then again, as an artist, you need the naysayers and the non-believers to add fuel to your creative fire. In a sense, that negativity is something that drives you. After me, there was a big trend toward combining rock and hip-hop, with artists from Kid Rock to Limp Bizkit, expanding it to an entire genre. Earlier, Red Hot Chili Peppers was doing it. Anthony Kiedis was rapping. And the combination always worked. But if it doesn't have the tag rap rock, people don't realize it.